Hey Corin, I wanted to ask you something. Jay, what you want? Haha, you know I love it when you call me that, but I was wondering, why do you look so much like this dragon? Are you like a descendant? Fool, what do I look like, a dragon? I'm obviously not related. But all these other dragons look exactly like you. Get these out of my face, you must be tired. Have you even drank your lean today? Oh, haha, you're right, I haven't. What, she's dead? Wait, what, she's dead? This is the police, you're under arrest. I didn't know I was gonna do that. Calm down, son. You're ugly when you cry. Just tell me how this all started. Well, it all started when I saw this funny YouTube review of Fire Emblem Fates by Dashertheruler. Today we're talking about the most fan service game I've ever played, Fire Emblem Fates. The basic premise of Fire Emblem Fates is simple. You have 3 different fates you can choose from, each diverging from a specific chapter in the story, giving you access to a completely different plotline and character pool within the same world. It's most analogous to something like whenever a dad retrieves milk, as they have different fates extend out from them. Either do you return to your family, do you return to your other family that's been waiting for you in Brazil, or do you get more milk? It fixes the problem of being worried you're missing out on one of your fates, as it lets you play out all of them, completely separating you from any of the moral implications of any choice, since you technically have done all of them, so no one can really be unhappy. In-game, the paths basically amount to an objectively correct path, lame, an objectively evil path that is more fun and silly, and kinda the true path, which seems designed to be done after at least one of the other paths is played through, or ideally both, to fully understand and appreciate the plot of it. Though, funnily enough, prior if you purchase the physical game, you'd then have to go online inside the game since it had a built-in purchase feature, which is actually really hilarious to imagine since you're just inside your game, then like 3 hours in, all of a sudden you basically have a microtransaction page brought up asking if you'd like to get the other pass. Though, at least you'd have one path since if you had the physical copy, you had to have one path. But in 2023, Nintendo eShop closed, so if you want to play the other paths, you need to buy them physically. And since the third path doesn't have a physical copy, you need to buy a version of it with all 3, like the special edition, which is, you can get it for a reasonable price, I guess. But anyways, assuming you get a copy somehow, you're gonna notice pretty quickly this is in fact not a dating sim or erotic roleplay. Well, at least not entirely. Fire Emblem Fates, like most Fire Emblem games, is a tactical RPG, which basically means you have your silly little guys on the field and direct them around to attack each other and commit atrocities, as opposed to most typical RPG combat where you just fight the enemy with abilities in a kind of stagnant battle 1v1 mostly. This is cool since it brings in a lot of complexities, like how to manage protecting your less well-endowed units, or how to have your lower-level units get finishing blows on opponents for more XP, or even just what units go where, since in Fates you both have to be concerned about whether magical or physical damage will be most effective, and the weapon triangle. If you don't know what the weapon triangle is, that's okay. It's inevitable as some people will fall below the average IQ, however, if you need an explanation, it basically is a triangle of weapons where there are 3 types and each counters one of the others and has one counter. So for example, axes beat lances, which beat swords, which beats axes. It's like grass, water, fire from Pokemon basically, and it applies for almost all weapons, basically meaning if you have an advantage, then the enemy has a lower hit chance against you, and you have a higher hit chance versus them.
Additionally, you gotta think about what the enemy can do on their turn, as otherwise there's a pretty decent chance your units will just die.
And speaking of death, in Fire Emblem, generally when a unit dies, it's just gone forever, which is in place to make you mind your decisions more carefully and add weight to the combat, as a battle going badly could affect your entire playthrough. Fire Emblem Fates has a bit of a modification to this, as you can actually play the game with 3 different settings. Classic, which is, well, like I said, you die when you die. Casual, where your unit kind of faints and can't fight for the rest of the battle, but will return after. And Phoenix mode, which is hella goofy, because your unit just revives after a death immediately on the next turn, making it pretty much impossible to lose, as you require your entire team to die within 1 turn, which is really hard to manage. This mode is clowned on a lot as it's kind of just game journalist mode, but in all honesty, if they had an easier mode that just makes it more accessible for more people who might not want to stress or, might have difficulty with the game, it's just kind of not an issue, as you're not forced to play the game on that mode. Outside of the obvious tactics available, there's some fun mechanics like map weapons that sometimes are present, allowing you or an enemy to fire interesting weapons that can completely change combat on a map. Additionally, there's class abilities, which can include cool tactical things like Shove, which just shoves your ally unit to displace them 1 tile, or Shelter, which allows you to protect an adjacent unit behind the sheltering unit, or even the ability for a unit to give their ally another turn by whispering ASMR in their ear.
I'm so crusty.
This is cool because it makes the combat less of just face-rolling the enemy with massive stats and range, and more methodical, especially since all those abilities take up the action for the unit for that turn, meaning they cannot attack or move anymore after using it, making you have to choose wisely whether you want to kill your enemy or push your ally into them so they die, since that's pretty funny. Additionally, a fairly cool feature is that of the guard and attack stance. Attack stance is basically jumping someone as a gang, so if you're from Birmingham or Detroit, this will probably be pretty normal to you. It's mostly useful for bursting an opponent as you hit an enemy with 2 units instead of 1, but it does leave you weak to attacks. Guard stance is basically a symbiotic relationship with both your units pairing up. It's kind of a slightly modified version of, well, pair up from the prior game Fire Emblem Awakening. However, in Fire Emblem Awakening, it's broken, and in this game, it's still mostly broken, as it's still, in most cases, the simplest answer for most maps is you can just have a super paired up unit running around, and it's just insanely strong. But basically, the reason why it's so strong is because it prevents enemies from attack stancing you, as your guard stance ally protects from the secondary attacker, and it gives you a free nullify attack every 5 attacks you or an enemy does, which is really strong. And also, it buffs your character depending on the support level between the 2 and the class of the unit supporting. And you can swap between who attacks each turn, meaning you can have flying units with, say, very high moves per turn, ferry an ally who is really strong but may have less movement per turn, and then they can still attack that same turn with that kind of nullifying their weakness of not being able to make it very far on the map. I do think this game strikes an alright balance, however, as it adds some depth, as you have to think about which units should support which, and when to have either unit as the lead. Additionally, it isn't always the most perfect solution to only have them paired up, as in some cases you may need to clear out a large group of enemies quickly, or they'll just focus attack one of your super units and kill them. Additionally, considering units like the Songstrich, which is the ASMR lady I mentioned before, or a healer, they're obviously better not to be paired up, as you want them to generally not be attacking and rather providing their utility, which isn't really buffed by the pair up. The best part, however, is that the support buffs are directly related to the relationships of your character. So basically, if you're just friends, they'll help you, but if you're on the verge of death, they may just let you die so they can post it to their TikTok. However, if you get close enough relationship, like being married, they have a chance of actually caring about you. But, I mean, relationships are complex, so sometimes they might let you die and spit on your corpse even though you thought you knew them for all these years, but actually they don't care about you, since no one really... Regardless, this is part of what makes Fire Emblem in general special from other tactics games, the dating sim component. See, you don't just have the support skill between each unit level up over time, they have to actively fight together and then go through little relationship side plots where they talk and, I don't know, do flirting things like, I don't know, roast special, like, I don't know, man, I'm single. I can't verify what they're doing is correct, but it seems like they did. These side plots can range from being absolutely endearing to kinda cool, to low-key sexist, to realistic, to high-key pedophilic or incestual. And the most impressive thing is they have these for almost every character pairing in the game, giving 3 to 4 little subplot stories for each rank of relationship 2 units can have together. It's actually kind of crazy how many there are if you think about it. I honestly really love these because it does exactly what a video game is supposed to, allow me to live out experiences I'll never have in my own life. Speaking of experiences I'll never have, the characters also have children through unknown means when they reach max relationship rank. And the child can actually be recruited as they quickly age up to being a young adult/teen because, magic and lore reasons. This is cool since the children gain attributes from their parents like some of their abilities, while also getting a unique ability like every other character in the game. The classes they can become also is helped by their parents, as like, say their parent is a samurai and the other's a ninja, another child can be either if you use a heart seal, which is basically an item that allows characters to reclass depending on what they feel in their heart. So kind of like if a character were to drop out of its engineering degree to pursue their TikTok pottery degree. If you're a nerd, this means you can make some genuinely disgustingly broken children if you pre-plan it. But if you're like me, you're gonna have awful children because you're just putting together whichever couples are the cutest, but, you know, I'm happy, even if I need to put some of the kids up for adoption. Plus, add in the fact that the children all have their own unique level to get them, meaning you get extra XP and sometimes a cool map to experience along with some endearing parent support events with the kids. But now, the only primary game mechanic I haven't touched upon is the base building. For lore reasons, you get a little piece of land where you can throw your Diddy parties and build up various buildings that have different purposes, like buying equipment or watching your units fight for your entertainment, or even gambling, kind of. The lottery's free, so it isn't really gambling, which is strange. Like, unless the rewards are cocaine and it gets you addicted, I can't really see how they're, like, making money with this. There's also a building where you can just look at every character in their underwear at any angle you want, and there's even a hot spring where similar will occur, though you don't know if it's going to be guys or ladies inside till you enter. After each mission, you get some scaly points you can spend on the buildings and on upgrading said buildings, meaning you gotta be selective. Though you don't have many things unlocked at first to build anyway, so it's pretty whatever. This mechanic also facilitates the multiplayer of the game. And yeah, there is multiplayer. I did kind of forget to mention it, but it does surprisingly have multiplayer. The multiplayer is kind of like Animal Crossing in a sense, because you can visit other people's islands, or castle in this case, and see their animals, or in this case, thick baddies and assorted men. The multiplayer isn't really doable anymore, but the multiplayer in its entirety would allow you to raid each other's bases and take each other's units for your own, as well as just get to check out how they built it. This mostly led to hackers making castles with 0 defenses and level 99 main character units, so you could basically just get maxed out units with the most broken abilities. But with that, we basically covered most of the gameplay, other than how the main character romance plays out, and also just a side note, generally people refer to the main character in the game as either the Avatar or Corrin, since Corrin's their name if you don't edit it. But for the main character, you get some special events that happen once you get married. And no, I'm not talking about being cheated on, or converting to an open marriage, or getting pregnant and wondering why the baby looks like that, but actually it's mostly romance stuff, like, well, I'll just show you. But yeah, so that's cool, so you can do that with basically whoever you want. I don't know why you'd want to do that, since you probably already have an IRL partner, so you'd kind of be like unfaithful, but it's a feature. But now you basically know the gameplay fully, so we can talk about the other features, and for this, I'm gonna first talk about the character design and visuals, then continue with the sound design, and finally which pass I'd recommend in what situations. So let's get into the character design and visuals. I really like the character design in general in Fire Emblem, because it always helps inspire DeviantArt artists in my communities to make cool content. Fire Emblem Fates doesn't fail with its many wholesome designs and cool personalities that generally work, like having certain characters like on the evil side kingdom being more unique and kind of European inspired, while the good side guys are less edgily styled and more Japanese. It's almost as though the devs are casting shade on the West by making them the evil side. I wonder why. Putting World War II beef aside, the overall anime aesthetic is really nice, with the cute pixel art sprites mixed with the large art incorporated being really cool. However, it is very fanservice-y in the sense that half the characters are in panties, and you can really class pretty much any character to fighter if you do want to see their underwear in battle. Or even better, you can use the Disrobe magic book, which, if you have the combat advantage with the weapon triangle, will take off the opponent's clothing, which is certainly an interesting mechanic. However, the in-combat design combines really well with all the pretty cutscenes where the avatar and other characters move around, and the fact that there's enough particle effects to make the maps feel alive at times. Combine this with the fact that the characters have reactive portraits and bodies depending on how injured they are or how well they're doing. Like for example with the character Kagero, her clothing starts to rip and look more disheveled when she's low health, especially her cape, and this applies for a lot of characters. However, on the topic of immersion, today's sponsor Lean Lovers, or LL as swag people call it, wants you to get immersed in their ocean of new lean flavors and lean-based products. Please click the link in the description and pinned comment. We need at least 5 viewers to buy some lean, or else I'm going to be dipped into a vat of boiling lean. They have graciously sponsored me for this segment, in which I'm going to talk about my 3 favorite Fire Emblem Fates characters to give you a more specific explanation of the character design, as I cannot go into depth on all the characters as well, there's way too many. So first, I'll be talking about Charlotte. I really like her because she's pretty, but also strong, kinda like me. Aesthetically, her clothing is cool and unique. It is a little bit sexual, but it actually makes a lot of sense for her character, because basically, she's a really strong lady who likes fighting, but generally tries to hide it as she wants to pretend to be a damsel so men and noblemen around her might be able to support her financially, so she can send the money back to her family that's really poor but supported her a lot. Though she ain't just like a gold digger, like me she cares a lot about personality and stuff, so she'll usually be nice in other support combos to lower status people, and she's also hella thick. I can just imagine me and Charlotte having a picnic and drinking 4 gallons of Lean Leaner's specialty blue and having a lean-tastic time. Another character I like is Kaze, mostly because he's kind but mysterious and also really handsome, a lot like me. Additionally, he has really endearing supports where he's typically very gentlemanly, and he has green hair, which is my favorite color. He has like a brother, and he's kind of a suicide bomber, so he's also cool, but he has red hair, so I don't know. I think Kaze would like the yummy lean burger with extra hummus. It has an excellent macronutrient profile, so I'd recommend it for people trying to get some protein in their lean consumption periods. So if you're like Kaze, subscribe and like, and click on the sponsor's link or my Patreon, which are different links, I swear. Anyways guys, I need to be honest. I can't count past 1, so I don't know how many characters I've talked about, so I'm only going to talk about 1 more, and I hope that makes it 3. But the last character's name is Rinka, and I imagine she's introduced many guys to their pecking fetish, a lot like me. She was really goofy to me at first, since she's the only Savage class which gets the ability Seal Resistance, which reduces enemy resistance, basically meaning they'll take more magical damage, since resistance is for magic damage and defense is for physical damage. The thing is though, Oni Savages don't do magic damage, so it just seemed pretty pointless. But when you realize Oni chieftains do magic damage, it's actually kind of clever, since like the chieftain villagers are gonna like butter up the enemies, reduce their resistance, and then the chieftain smites them with magic, which I think is kind of a cool design. She also has these black balls around her neck, which might explain the lack of people of color in the series, making her actually an incredibly important character across all the games if my theory is correct. Regardless, I think Rinka would like a lean, I don't know man, sponsorship done. Now that you know about the visuals, we can talk about the music, which is overall pretty alright.
I'm gonna tear you in half. Look. You are the ocean's gray waves, destined to seek life beyond.
It's nothing too crazy. Music is kind of subjective, but I was never shocked or anything, and there was no burping sound effects, so I don't know. Otherwise though, the sound design's pretty good. The sound of blocking something, critting, the voice lines and movement sounds are all really satisfying.
Don't be a crybaby.
This fight is over.
The fact that some characters make armor clinking noise when they move is also really cool, as it adds to the immersion. Overall, I think the sound design is lovely, though the music was never anything too crazy, but it's definitely satisfactory and above average across games I've played. Finally, we can talk about which paths I'd recommend personally, depending on how many you want to play. And honestly, if you're only going to play one, I think the Conquest path, where you are part of the objectively bad side, is pretty fun, mostly because the map design is really excellent, the characters you get access to are cool, and it's fairly challenging as you have really limited resources and it's depressing. It's kind of like spawning in Bulgaria. So if you're only intending on playing one path, I definitely recommend that one. Unless you want an easier time and to feel a bit less morally questionable, I'd recommend Birthright then. However, if you want to play Tooth Pass, I'd probably recommend Conquest into Revelations or Birthright into Revelations. It's basically the same logic before. If you want a harder experience, do Conquest, easier Birthright. If you're going to play all, I'd definitely recommend playing Birthright, then Conquest, then Revelations, as you'll probably find Birthright really boring and easy if you do Conquest first. Additionally, you can choose not to do Revelations since it has some goofy design choices and tedium. However, you get the largest cast of characters of all the paths, and I don't know, it's just kind of fun doing the golden path to me and getting to see all the lore. Now that that's done, I'll give a rating of the game, though I'm basically going to give 4 ratings as I want one for each path and then one for the game in general. I think Birthright, for me, is about an 8 out of 10. I did like the game, but I would have preferred a bit of difficulty that wasn't tied to the settings of the game, and also I would have liked some of the Dami characters from Conquest to be more recruitable. Conquest is a 9 out of 10. I really enjoyed it, and I think the vibes are great. My only issue is some irrational plot points, but overall it's pretty chill since you also have the story from the other ones anyways. And Revelations, I'll give like a 8.5 out of 10. It's also pretty good, and I really like having all the characters, though it is a bit tedious at times. Like, there's literally a map where every turn you have to like break ice and it uses up your unit's turns, and it's just hella annoying because you have to go so slowly to not die. But you do get a lot of loot, I guess, for doing it, but it took me like 30 or 40 turns to do. Overall, I give Fates a 9 out of 10 since I think having that one goated path and the other paths being pretty fun makes it good. Though if you do want to play all of them, it does take a long time, which can be a bit annoying, but if you do only play one and it is Conquest, it's pretty much just a 9 out of 10. Regardless, I hope this review helped you, and if it did, consider subscribing, liking, commenting, hugging me, telling me I'm handsome, saying my cat is handsome, telling your family about me, or subscribing to my Patreon. Have a nice day, and before I'm off, I'd like to say thank you to all of my Patreon subscribers, so I'm going to show them all on the screen right now. Have a nice day! And that's how it started. I bought the game right after and subscribed to his Patreon. That's amazing, son. I think I'll also subscribe and tell all the boys at the station about him. And they all lived happily ever after. Wow, that's amazing, Papa. I really like that story. You won't be liking the story soon, though, son, once you... Wait, what, Dad?